Coping with COVID is brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Visit scdheck.gov for an updated list of testing sites and important information on how to protect yourself, your family, and friends from the coronavirus. SCDHEC, healthy people, healthy communities. Also, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Log on to columbiasc.net/OBO. Agape Counseling and Training Center. Call 803-779-2777 for licensed professionals of counselors and social workers helping families, engaged and married couples, and individuals of all ages gain an understanding of all aspects of their life. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, contact Agape Counseling and Training Center at agapects.com. And Columbia Housing Authority. The agency is looking for stories from former residents of Allen Benedict Court to retain some of the property's rich history. In its 80-year life, Allen Benedict Court has been home to some of the country's elite, including a Grammy Award-winning performer, corporate executives, national television celebrities, a host of doctors, lawyers, and NBA greats. So share your pictures, mementos, and memories at chcares@chasc.org. Coping with COVID, brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Columbia Housing Authority, Agape Counseling and Training Center, and Palmetto Media Connection.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Fight the spread and take a stand against coronavirus. Wear a mask in public. Stay at least 6 feet apart from others. And get tested. Join us and fight the spread. Visit scdheck.gov/COVID-19.
Coping with COVID and End It Together presents Wellness Wednesday from the Diabetes Advisory Council. I'm Tre Tailor, and today we're going into the man cave, the sacred place where men meet and talk and socialize. And we're going to talk about something that I don't think they really talk about, men's health. Dr. Thaddeus Bell joins us. He's also joined by State Representative Terry Alexander from Florence, Bishop Arnold Williams, and WIS-TV sportscaster Rick Henry. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're looking forward to a great conversation in the man cave. That's coming up next on Coping with COVID. But first, your COVID community updates. Kroger will begin offering rapid antibody COVID tests. People who don't have symptoms but want to see if they've been exposed can get results in about 15 minutes. The finger prick test costs about $25 and will begin today. Kroger says this is the first retailer to offer antibody testing to customers. With the holiday season upon us, officials are urging people to get tested before celebrating. Now, make certain you and your family test negative for the coronavirus. And if you are traveling, check to see where the COVID hotspots are. And don't forget to avoid those. Monday was the first time in 5 days that South Carolina reported fewer than 1,000 newly confirmed cases. And Disney released the trailer about the new film about former Clemson football player Ray McAlfrobay. The heartwarming story about the 19-year-old who had to bring his little brother to school debuts December 11th.
What does sacrifice mean to you? It means being selfless, committed. Now, our tradition here is unlike any other. We're family. Now, Ray, these scholarships are yearly. You perform on the field, you perform in the classroom, and if you don't, they take that all away.
Yes, Coach.
You can't be satisfied. There's no guaranteed spot on my team.
It's my brother, again.
Baymar.
It's Mama.
Ray, earlier this morning, I got her into a 30-day inpatient program.
We'll be placing Famar in foster care.
Can't I just have a family member watch me?
It's cool. Should be getting back to school anyway. I'll be good.
Something in me's awakened.
Wait. I'll take him.
All the naysayers stayed praying that I wouldn't make
I
it.
had to bring my little brother to live with me on campus.
Had to look inside, find the motivation. May we build bridges and break limits.
Mom's gone. It's just you and me.
Trying to make a better way when the day's finished.
You don't have to do this on your own.
For the future, we winning if they winning. This is our story. I just want to leave a page in it.
Why are you helping me?
Everyone's family here.
This is where you rise. This is where you shine.
My brother and I had it kind of tough growing up.
History in the making.
Clemson has given me the opportunity to change my life.
Come on!
My coaches, my teammates. These men are my brothers too.
History in the making. You've been waiting for this your whole life.
Now, the events that took place during the 2006 football season led to an NCAA landmark decision that allowed coaches and administrators and their family members to take care of the then 11-year-old boy. Much of the film was shot on campus with students, faculty, and staff as extras. Again, Safety starts streaming on Disney December 11th. SCDHEC has the most up-to-date list of times, dates, and location for COVID testing in and around South Carolina. Visit scdhec.gov for more information and check the scroll at the bottom of the screen throughout the show for up-to-date listings of COVID tests. Also, if you want to organize a COVID screening at your event or at your neighborhood, that information is also on the screen and we'll be scrolling throughout the show. And the DHEC Care Line if you need information on testing and if you need transportation to get a test. Now, speaking of transportation, if you are in mobile and unable to get transported to a test and live in Richland and Clarendon counties, paramedics in those counties actually will do in-home COVID testing. Please contact 911 for more information. Now, the SC Bar Association and SC Legal Services have collaborated to offer a toll-free number and website for rental and mortgage help. Please check the bottom of the screen for information on that. And the City of Columbia is offering a 6-month payment plan for water bills and payment assistance up to 75%. And if you need help with virtual learning and schooling, Rashonda Pratt visited the show a couple of weeks ago, and she had some great suggestions about virtual learning and schooling. Please check out her YouTube page that is solely dedicated to virtual learning and virtual schooling. In It Together is sponsoring Wellness Wednesday and the Diabetes Advisory Council. If you want more information about diabetes, pre-diabetes, and managing it, please visit the In It Together website or the In It Together Facebook page. Coping with COVID is actually streaming live on the In It Together Facebook page. It's also streaming live on the Tailor Made Production page on Facebook. Please go over there, hit like and share so that you can not only check out Coping with COVID Monday through Saturday at 2 p.m., you can also get all of your COVID-related updates. We're also streaming live on YouTube, and we would love for you to subscribe to that page and also on Instagram. Follow us there also. I'm Tre Tailor, and you are watching Coping with COVID, In It Together, and the Diabetes Advisory Council sponsor Coping with COVID every Wednesday. And today we're talking about men's health. We're joined by WIS-TV sportscaster Rick Henry, South Carolina State Representative Terry Alexander from the Magic City of Florence, South Carolina. Dr. Thaddeus Bell practices in Charleston, and also Bishop Arnold Williams with Hope in Christ Ministries in Columbia. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. Our producer, Lorne Grant, is going to join us. He said he is. So, look at him. He's going to join us. Oh, I was going to say, is he going to join us and not show his face?
I'm here.
All right. So we're going to have a great conversation. I want to start with you, Dr. Bell, because you actually launched several years ago, Closing the Gap in Healthcare, as a nonprofit to address health disparities, particularly in the African-American community and underserved communities. What are some of the top health issues for men?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for offering me the opportunity to talk to you today. I'm from Columbia, South Carolina. So Columbia is always in my heart.
And we sit here waiting for you to come back.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, I did launch Closing the Gap in Healthcare for African Americans and the Underserved. And the primary reason that we launched this award-winning program is because we recognize that health literacy was one of the main reasons that African American men and women, that we experience the health disparities that we experience throughout the whole country and frankly globally. When they took a look at the health outcome of African American men, we were on the bottom of the totem pole when they talked about men from all cultures, not just from the United States, but from all cultures. And based on my experience, I've been in practice now for about 45 years. And based on my experience, the reason that we are at the bottom of the totem pole is because the lack of information. Now, there are other reasons that contribute, but it's primarily the lack of information. The lack of information regarding prostate cancer, colon cancer, the lack of information regarding stroke, hypertension, kidney disease, the lack of information regarding heart disease, surely the lack of information regarding sugar, or as we were, that's what it's known as in the Black community, diabetes, and all of the complications that diabetes causes. And then it's the lack of information regarding lifestyle. The lack of information regarding lifestyle. And so those are the reasons that African American men, and then of course, there are myths and untruths. You know, most Black men think that they are stronger than Black women. And so as a result, we do a lot of crazy things that get us into trouble. And when you look at mortality and morbidity, you will see that there are certainly more Black women living than there are Black men. There's a reason for that. So all you have to do is connect the dots.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, Dr. Bell, that it's lack of information, because I feel like the information is there. So is it that there's not enough information, or that Black or African American men are not accessing the information that's there? And anybody can chime in.
Hey, Trey, I went through prostate cancer. I had the surgery. And as I told you on another show, one reason I wanted to make my diagnosis public is to share information and to let people know that, hey, you need to have regular checkups, because you can catch a lot of stuff early that will help save your life. And after my diagnosis, I started having conversations with my friends. People were sending me emails saying, hey, I went through the same thing. I know a friend who went through it. And I'm going, see, where were those conversations before? We can help each other. And so, I've had some really great discussions with my friends, even talking about, our prior visits to the doctor. And although it's something that, maybe we weren't comfortable with at first, we realize now it can save your life. So information is out there. We just need to share it and talk amongst ourselves. We can still talk about sports and all that other stuff, but every once in a while you ask your buddy, hey man, when's the last time you've seen a doctor?
Right. Yeah, that's so interesting, Rick. And that's why I wanted to ask Dr. Bell, is it lack of information, or men are not sharing the information? It sounds like to you, men are just not having those important conversations.
Well, I can tell you that if you ask the average Black male what a PSA is, we've talked about it on the air and in the media and etc., most men do not understand that starting at age 40, they need to get a PSA. They have no idea what a PSA is. Most Black men do not know what a normal blood pressure is. I just had a stroke here about 4 days ago, because I have not been able to access a lot of medical information as to why he had that stroke. But I can tell you that other Black men who are well known have had strokes and heart attacks because they didn't know that, if you smoke and if you drink and if you lead a sedentary lifestyle, that's going to increase your risk by having a stroke or heart attack. So I think that, and I see Black men my practice is mostly Black men.
Wow.
And I see Black men every day.
Right.
And I can tell you the new Black men that I see, when I ask them, well, you know, do you know anything about your family history? They look at me like, no. Well, why is that important? So that's why I think the lack of information.
Well, may I posture my comments?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Terry. Thank you, Dr. Bell.
Thank you, Doc. Relative to information, I'm wondering if that information is accessible. Over the course of the years, Dr. Bell, and you could probably you probably know more of this than I do. First of all, thank you, Tre, for having this conversation about Black males' health. Thank you very much. And I think it's something that we need to take place. If you remember, Dr. Bell, when a lot of and you know, and I'm not just saying this to be saying it, but when a lot of women issues started surfacing, a lot of information was out there. And as women began to access this information, you began to see the mortality rates go down. You began to see diagnosis of breast cancer increase or go down because the information was available, but the information has not been accessible. So I think it's incumbent upon us, particularly those of us who have some idea, Rick, you, me, Bishop, who has some idea, that began to start sharing this information to our brothers. And I believe the more of these conversations we have, not just from an activity, but as a processing perspective, the more this information that we have, the more that information will become accessible to more of our brothers in our communities. Now, those of us who have some level of education and some level of intellect are more informed than those brothers who do not have, who are on the corners, who are just do not have this type of conversation. So it is incumbent upon us, those of us who have some sense of what's happening within our bodies, to share that with those who don't. So the information is there. I don't think it's being accessible to those who need it the most.
Right.
I like to chime in here, and thank you again, Tre, for having this conversation.
Thank you.
It's Dr. Bell said something. We need to know our history from our family. The family tree do carry a lot of weight. I was 60 years old when I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. It took me going to the doctor for hypertension and all that. Never was told that I was borderline, pre-diabetic, or anything.
Wow.
In 2014, I hit the wall. I passed out at my primary doctor office. They rushed me by ambulance downtown hospital here in Columbia. I was literally dying when they finally got me vented and everything. I think my reading was 1,873. Wow. So I'm here because of the grace of God first.
Yeah.
I'm also here to tell and share the story that we don't need to go around not knowing, even though you might don't know, cannot trace your family history, but you need to make sure as much as you can to find out, you know, what your dad had, what your mom had, so it can help you along your way. Because after my near-death experience, I came away from this. I always wanted to learn, okay, Lord, you took me through this. What can I do with it? So I decided to learn all I can about diabetes, why it comes. Sometimes you inherit it. Sometimes, you know, this all kind of stuff you learn. Sometimes your diet. But the key of it is my goal has been to tell everybody who have ears to hear the opportunity that type 2 diabetes kill a lot of Afro-American people than many other diseases. So I'm challenging, and like Rick said, we need to talk about this. Terry said we must talk about this. We must tell everybody we can about type 2 diabetes can be prevented, but we got to do something about it.
Yeah, that's Bishop Arnold Williams with Hope in Christ Ministries going clockwise. Lorne Grant joins us. He's a Columbia, South Carolina radio announcer, WIS TV sports director, Rick Henry, State Representative Terry Alexander, and Dr. Thaddeus Bell with Closing the Gap in Healthcare. Michelle Harris says, when public figures like a Rick Henry and a Al Roker talk about their experiences, that gives more men courage to start the conversation. And of course, Dr. Bell, you mentioned Sinbad, the comedian Sinbad, having been, we just found out that he had a stroke a couple of days ago. I want to ask you though, Dr. Bell, because like you said, you see African-American men every single day in your practice. Do you think the lack of information, do you see it has anything to do with age? Is it more younger brothers or more older brothers? Or is it just brothers in general?
I think it's just brothers in general. I've been impressed that it's somewhat of a paradox that in spite of all of, we walk around with a computer in our hand. You want to know something about hypertension, all you got to do is Google it, and it'll tell you, it'll give you general information. But in spite of that, the information chasm gets wider. And one of the things that I found out is that it doesn't matter when it comes to health information. It doesn't matter whether or not you have a PhD or whether or not you're in the third grade. With Black men, the lack of information is basically the same. I can tell you that I take care of, I have about 20 or 30 pastors in my practice. I take care of doctors. I take care of garbage, sanitation workers. I take care of businessmen. And the lack of information in that whole group. Now, I want to make sure you understand. One of the things that I've appreciated is that even men with health insurance, good health insurance, most men with good health insurance think that if they're feeling good, they're good. So there's no need to go to the doctor. In spite of all of the information that's out there regarding colon cancer, prostate cancer, control of your blood pressure. So that's why I decided to develop Closing the Gap in Healthcare. And one final thing, we do these barbershop talks. I've done several of them up in Columbia. They've been very, very popular, where we invite men to come in, men only, and we talk about men's health issues. And one of the carrots that I've used regarding the barbershop talk, I've talked about how to improve your sex life.
Right, right.
Because if you improve your sex life, that involves a whole lot of health issues.
Right.
That you're going to have to know about if you're going to have good sex. So once men are able to make that connection, you can't have good sex if your blood pressure is out of control. You can't have good sex if you're diabetic. You can't have good sex if you've already had a stroke. You can't have good sex sometimes if you've had prostate cancer and not had the right kinds of things done. So trying to bring all of these, and of course, with reference to diabetes, you definitely can't have good sex if you're diabetic and you've not kept your diabetes under control. So what we try to do is we try to bring all of these things together and let men know, look, you got to have good information. One final thing, having African-American doctors who are willing to give brothers information in a way that they can understand
it. Yeah.
Very, very important.
Yeah, it's Dr. Thaddeus Bell, Closing the Gap in Healthcare. A couple of things I want to chime in, Dr. Bell, that you said first. So it's wings, sports, and sex. That's how we can get to the brother. You ain't saying wings and sports, but I'm just throwing that in.
Wings.
I think wings and sports and sex.
Okay.
Yeah,
WSS. WSS.
You're absolutely right about that. I was recently diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Wow.
I diagnosed myself about 6 years ago, and I've been talking about it a lot. And the way that I picked up on my prostate cancer is the way that I pick up on my patient's prostate cancer. And that I wasn't having any symptoms, but I was just doing a PSA every year. And I noticed that my PSA started going up. So I did what I tell my patients. I referred myself to the medical university and got an evaluation and ended up getting a biopsy. And the biopsy came back positive. I just underwent 1 month of radiation treatment, and I've been talking about that. So, you just gotta make sure that the information gets out there so that brothers will recognize that even though they are feeling good, doesn't mean that they're good.
Right. So, Bishop Arnold Williams, I want to ask you, because I know since you were diagnosed, and I guess you're controlling your diabetes, you became a life coach for folks. Are men open to hearing about it? Dr. Bell says it's lack of information. So when we give the information, when you all give the information, and Rick, you can chime in here too, when the information is given, do men want to hear it?
Well, for the last 3 years, I have done what they call a cohort at the church. It's the National Diabetes Prevention Program. It's dealing with lifestyle change program. Most of my class had been female. We have had a few men's in the class, but we are very, like Dr. Bell said, we are very slow to grasp hold to things that will help us, that will save our life.
And that's my concern, because so Dr. Bell says it's lack of information. Okay, so when you give the information, do brothers still want to hear it if there are no wings and sports and sex involved?
No, you're right. Sometimes it's hard for them to grasp it. In fact, I always tell them this. I lost a brother who was 15 months younger than I to diabetes a couple of years ago. He was in denial. He would not be compliant with his diabetes. So he lost both legs. He was on dialysis, and he succumbed to a heart attack. So, I always tell people about diabetes. Diabetes is hell. And I spell it like this: heart, eyes, liver, and lungs. And limbs. That's why I call hell. Diabetes affect your heart, your eyes, your liver, and your limbs.
I always remind men, we don't like to talk about it, but diabetes affects your penis more than anything.
Yeah.
And once you start talking about that, once you let men understand that, look, the thing that you cherish the most can be significantly affected if you don't get your sugar under control.
Right.
Gets their attention. I can assure you of that.
Yeah.
One thing too is that, and I believe we have to continue these conversations.
Yes.
It cannot, Dr. Bell, Rick, Arnold, it cannot be, and I call Arnold and I came out of high school together, same high school.
McClanagan? He went to McClanagan?
Yes.
Yeah, even Florence.
I know that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And see,
you're telling too much information now.
Yeah, we seem to think that having one conversation is it.
Right.
And we had this one conversation with this person, he or she ought to get it. But that, in reality, that's not the case.
Right.
We must be constant in our deliberation of healthcare issues. My partners that we're always talking about. I had an uncle went to the hospital for the first time, I think, in his life. He was like 81 years old.
Yeah.
And then I asked his sons, I said, when the last time y'all been to the doctor? Well, I don't know, cuz, but I'm going now. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be constant in this conversation.
Right.
And I'm sure, Doc, you giving patients advice one time, and it took them 3 or 4 times for them to really hear it. And that's what we have to do with our conversations with our brothers, is keep the conversation going, every chance we get out. Matter of fact, I was handing up the South Carolina Black Caucus, a minority health conference this past year, and our emphasis, Dr. Bell, was going to be on Black men's health. And we're going to continue to push that issue and continue to have that conversation, because the more we hear it, sometimes the more it sets in. And so we saying it and saying information is there, but are we hearing it? I'm quite sure, Doctor. I heard about blood pressure medicine pill with my great granddaddy 30 years ago. and what it means to his, his sex life. So we've been hearing it, but we still didn't take it in. I go to the doctor twice a year. They're looking at my prostate as we speak, in terms of some issues that's going on as we speak. You see what I'm saying? So, and it's not because I wasn't going. I go to the doctors twice a year since I was 49.
Right.
My mother had died of kidney complications. She had a brother, another sister, and another brother. All of them were on dialysis at the same time.
Yeah.
So what I watch constantly is my kidneys and my water intake. And I make sure that the doctor check all of my organs. And you have to be consistent.
Right.
You have to be consistent. We have to keep that conversation going. And what we'll do it one time and think brother's supposed to pick it up like that. That's not how it works.
Right.
Yeah.
That's State Representative Terry Alexander, Dr. Thaddeus Bell, Bishop Arnold Williams, Lorne Grant, and Rick Henry are joining us today in the Man Cave to talk about men's health. When we come back, we're going to talk more about men's health. We'll find out why men are skeptical about going to the doctor. We'll find out what women and family members can do. And our audience member has a question for Lauren. Coping with COVID and It Is Together present Wellness Wednesday from the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina. Now, if you need information about diabetes, how to manage it, and to join a class to help you manage diabetes or pre-diabetes, visit the In It Together website or Facebook page. I'm Tre Tailor, and we'll be right back with more men's health next on Coping with COVID.
Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Established in 2010 with past national media guests like Janice Huff, Mitch Faulkner, and Dolores Washington, and local celebs like Cynthia Hardy, Miranda Parnell, Vaughn Gaskin, Kevin Cohen, Vanzell Hare, and Makita Pearson, and hosted by Darcy Strickland and Tony G. Palmetto Media Connections in the past has distributed to the community over $1,000 in gift cards. Connect with us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together.
People will be able to look 100 years from now. They will know how we got over. This makes it even more important that we shine this light.
Part of it also wasn't the fact that we couldn't have the physical graduation, but I also couldn't celebrate with my family out of town.
For me, I feel like this is a new normal. This is not going away anytime soon, I don't think.
Anything that's happened before can happen again. And the same thing is at play with this virus.
We are no longer in a building, and we've talked about church being, with us, in us.
Have you traveled abroad late in the past 6 months? We were trying to trace it back as early as November.
I'm Tre Tailor, and you're watching Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's Wellness Wednesday from In It Together and the Diabetes Advisory Council. And if you need information about diabetes, how to manage it, and to join a class to help you manage your diabetes or pre-diabetes, visit the In It Together website or Facebook page. We're in the Man Cave talking about men's health. And if you just joined us, be sure to watch the replay. Men have shared some great information. Also, please post and share this information so we can get the message to the masses. Dr. Thaddeus Bell, originally from Columbia, but now in Charleston, closing the healthcare gap, joins us. He's joined by Bishop Arnold Williams, Hope in Christ Church, life coach, and a diabetic. Also, WISTV sportscaster Rick Henry, who just recovered from prostate cancer, and longtime state representative from the PD, Terry Alexander. Joins us here on Coping with COVID. Thank you, gentlemen, again for joining us and having this great conversation. D.L. Brunson says, who actually just finished, kind of went through a health issue himself. He says he thinks Black men still have a deep-seated distrust of doctors that prevents them from routine visits. What do you guys think about that? Thank you, D.L., for your comment.
Hey, Craig, I just want to jump in here now and follow up on some things that we talked about in our last segment. Mainly, like knowing your family history. Dr. Bell, like before I had my prostate cancer surgery, met with the surgeon, and he was asking me about my family history. And on my mother's side, her brother had prostate cancer, and on my father's side, I had a first cousin who actually passed away after my diagnosis. And he was asking me about, my family and my son. And he said, well, maybe my son should, make sure he starts getting those screenings at 40. So I'm going to be constantly on him. Hey, set up that appointment. And about 15 years ago, my fraternity brothers and I, we started meeting on an annual basis. We were at USC back in the 70s. And one of the brothers, he was constantly hammering home the point about getting screened for colon cancer because his father passed away. And let me tell you, he would not let it go. You're right, Terry. You have to keep consistently hammering away at it. And really, that's one reason I went and got a colonoscopy. So the next time he asked me, I could say, yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
And I've had another one since then, and I'm glad he was constantly on me. I had another fraternity brother. This is just such a tragic story. He worked at the pharmacy in a hospital in Columbia, but he wasn't going to the doctor taking care of himself. He was diagnosed with lung cancer.
Wow. And
he worked in a hospital in the pharmacy, and soon after his diagnosis, he passed away.
Wow.
Had insurance, access to doctors right there. I mean, we're talking like all he had to do was just like walk to another part of the hospital, get himself checked out.
Right.
So we have to keep hammering away. And fellas, don't be afraid, don't be ashamed to go to the doctor, ask some questions about someone who's been through the same thing. Because after I came out and went public, I've referred people to my urologist. I counseled a couple. They were going through the same thing. And when Al Roker came out with his diagnosis, Trey kind of sent chills through my body because it was the same story as me.
Right.
No symptoms. It was detected early because he was having a checkup. And I went, my goodness.
Right.
That was my story through and through. And it's the story of a lot of men. And like someone said earlier, hey, you may be feeling good, but you're not good because I had no symptoms. So, by the grace of God, things have worked out for me.
Michelle?
Here, Trey, or Rick said, it's so important we got to keep talking about it. I have 3 black sons here in South Carolina that I tell them, guys, get checked. Make sure you take your PSA. Make sure you check your blood pressure. Make sure you have them checked because your dad is a diabetic and hypertension. We have to pass it on to the next generation so they can do the checks themselves because that's the only way people perish for lack of knowledge. And Dr. Bell said we do not speak enough to each other about our health issue. I love sports too, but we need to talk about how healthy we are. We're not a Superman, even though my son called me Superman. I'm not Superman. My kryptonite was my diabetes. It almost took me out.
Yeah. Someone has a question for Lauren. And Lauren, can you tell us what health issues you're dealing with? Someone wants to know what keeps you encouraged to continue your healthcare plan.
Well, I'm dealt with prostate cancer, like most men dealing with. I was sort of scared to go to the doctor when I actually felt something was going on. Because like Dr. Bell Google. I Google a lot when everything going on. And going to the bathroom, I'm like, why am I going to the bathroom a whole lot? So I went to the doctor, but I went to the doctor for something else. But my doctor took it upon himself to do a PSA. And when he got the results back, he told me that he needed to send me to a urologist. I think that's what it's called. Here in Columbia. From there, I went from Columbia, went to Greenville twice to get a biopsy. From Greenville, Charleston, I went and I had the surgery. I had 35 radiation treatments, and I had injections. And what keeps me going is well, I got grandkids, so my grandkids and my kids keep me going, and of course the things that I want to do. But you know that was a little still scary at times. So
Trey, let me make one or two comments.
Yes.
As I'm watching you, you are a young woman. There was a question that was asked earlier, and that question was, do I see a difference in the generation
yes
of interest
yes.
that men have in healthcare? And the answer to that question is yes, with a question mark. Young men who are married to young women are very, very much aware of the health issues of their men.
Right.
I can tell you the number of times that I've had a young woman to call my office and make an appointment for their husband because they think something is going on.
Right.
I gave a talk back in December to the Christian women of the African American church down in Hilton Head. It was about 1,000 women. And so they told me what they wanted to talk about, and I did, but I reserved 20 minutes to talk about men's health issues to African American women. I cannot tell you that at the end of the talk, they gave me an additional hour to answer the questions that we're having about their Black men.
Yeah.
So women are more in tune with what goes on as it relates to the health of Black men, because Black men historically have been in denial about their health issues. We don't like to talk about it. We've not had, I didn't have a good role model regarding health, because my dad died at 59.
Wow.
And I started medical school. But did he go to a doctor on a regular basis? No. The reason why? Because he didn't know to do that. I was listening to the representative. The information that Black men have about hypertension and medications is mostly wrong. Most Black men think that their blood pressure medicine is going to have a major role in them not being able to have an erection. That's incorrect information.
Right.
So they need to be engaged with a doctor who's going to give them up-to-date information so that they can be able to use it. Most Black men don't know that prostate cancer in most Black men don't have symptoms and signs of prostate cancer. It's found as a result of going to the doctor and getting a PSA.
That's right.
Your PSA can be normal.
Right.
Most Black men don't understand that if you have a PSA that's elevated in your 40s, that's different than a Black man who has an elevated PSA when he gets 70.
Right.
PSA in your 40s is very, very aggressive. The mere fact that you get a PSA does not necessarily mean that you have cancer, but it means it's just a red flag saying that you need to get it checked out earlier. So here again, I go back to saying you need to find you a doctor who's going to be willing to sit down and explain these kinds of things to you. The data suggests that Black doctors do a better, I don't mind saying it, Black doctors do a better job talking to Black men than other doctors do. The data clearly tells us that. But how many men know that? And then, of course, the other problem is there aren't a whole lot of Black doctors.
Right.
So that's another issue. So that's just those are just some of the kinds of issues that that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. And one final thing, how many of the men on this panel, how many of you have had a conversation with your dad who was willing to tell you what issues he had as a young man growing up? He either didn't know it or he was not willing to discuss it with you. And that is not good.
Right. Right. Mitchell Peace Joy Jen says we need to keep our men healthy. Great to see everyone on the platform today. This is a much needed discussion. Michelle says the message of prevention is so important because chronic disease is not inevitable. Terry, you had something to say? It looked like you wanted to.
I think someone mentioned the fact, well, my dad died when I was like 49. So I didn't have a lot of time and conversation with him. He was at the age of 49 when he died. But you're absolutely right, Doc, that a lot of us do not have those conversations with our fathers, but it's incumbent upon us, those of us who are here now and behind us, to have those conversations with our sons. And I'm constant in conversation with my son about his health and how he's managing that. But one thing that you mentioned, Trey, I think some of the question is that is there a lack of trust in the healthcare field? Absolutely, there's a lack of trust.
Right, DL said that.
And that's possibly why, that's possibly why a lot of us don't go to the doctors and get that care. Now, they found this little spot on me in my prostate because I do go, and the year before I went, the doctor said, Terry, your PSA went up. Let's keep an eye on it. I said, well, you keep an eye on it. I said, that's your job. I said, keep an eye on it. So it kept going up, and so we checked it out. And so we're dealing with some issues as we speak. But I found it early, no symptoms, just as you said, just by simply having routine checks. And once we do that, they're going to find all kind of stuff about you. And I think that we're not necessarily afraid of the health care. We're probably afraid of what we might find.
Right. Fear the unknown.
Find out. I don't need to know that, but I'd rather know that I have some medical issues.
So that you can do something about it. Yeah.
On the front end so that we can catch it. You see what I'm saying? Let me know as soon as we get. I said, Doc, he said, we need to check this out. I said, well, let's do that. He said, when? I said, as soon as we possibly can.
Right.
Because I want to know what I need to do. And so it's not necessarily that we are afraid of the healthcare profession more so. I think we are afraid of knowing that something is wrong with Macho Terry.
Yeah. Right, Terry. I've heard doctors say that.
Yeah, nothing should be wrong with me. Look at me. I'm healthy on the outside, but on the inside, I'm dying slowly.
Well, you're absolutely right. But to your point, Trey, there is a history that's well documented, of the bad treatment that African Americans and the underserved have had with medicine. Mm-hmm. And the one that most people remember is the Tuskegee experience.
Yeah.
That's the one that people talk about. But I can assure you that bad treatment of Black people, men and women, started way before the Tuskegee experiments.
And after.
And frankly, continued after.
And it's still going on.
And still goes on. Yeah. So those are reasons that are well documented as to why there's a lack of trust. But that's why I encourage people that you have some responsibility to find a doctor who you can talk to and who you can trust. That's your responsibility. And if you don't do that, then shame on you.
Yeah. Well, I do want to ask, and Michelle has a question about what role the church can play. But before we get to that, Michelle, thank you for your question. I want to ask, so what can family members, what can women, because as each of you have said that, Dr. Bell, you said that mostly women have encouraged the men in their lives to go to the doctor. They've called you as concerned about the men and their health and their lives. And of course, we don't want to be seen as nagging, you're getting on my nerves, get out of my face, that kind of thing. So what can women and family members do to help you, brothers, that we love and we care for, and we want you to be okay so that you can protect us as women, as family members, because you can't if you're sick. So your suggestions, brothers, what can we do?
Well, I'll go first. I'll just mention this and then I'll be quiet. A lady called me and told me she got an investment in her husband.
Wow.
It's an investment. And so I'm telling him that I'm investing in him a lifelong time. And so therefore I'm calling him and telling him to get himself to the doctor because I want to protect my investment.
Right. Rick?
Yeah, I'll just share a story with everyone. About 5 years ago, in my job, there's some periods of the year where I'm always on the go and probably not getting enough rest. And so there was one day I had a speaking engagement. I had someone come in by the station for an interview, and I just slept through just about everything. And, I hadn't shown up at work. And when Judy Godson got there, she said, well, has anyone thought about calling his wife? So she called Perrine at work, and, she couldn't reach me. She came to the house, and I was up, just getting ready for work. And she knew I didn't have my sense of urgency, because normally if I'd miss some important appointments, I'd be all in a frenzy.
Yeah.
And she just said, hey, I'm gonna drive you to work. And, I didn't argue. I said, okay, because I'd just make her happy. And while we were driving to work, I was trying to, make some phone calls or something. I locked myself out of both of my cell phones, right? Because I'd forgotten the password. So I get to work, and Judy and I had an interview with Don Staley, scheduled an interview. And in the studio, I got there late for the interview, just right before, we went on the air. And when it was over, Judy sent me a text message and said, hey, you're just not yourself. And Perrine, she knew that Judy would, if Judy got on me, they would double me. And that's what they did. And Judy said, hey, you need to go to the emergency room. They were persistent. And we had an assistant news director who was female. She said, yeah, just take the rest of the day off. And so we're driving. My son called from Charlotte, said he was coming down. And I said, you know what? I can't fight this. So we went to the emergency room, and my daughter's filling out the paperwork, and she said symptoms, disoriented. And I said, I wasn't disoriented. And she said, you locked yourself out of both of your cell phones. I said, yeah, you're right. Good point. Anyway, long story short, my blood pressure, I never had a problem with high blood pressure, but it was about to go through the roof.
Right.
Okay. And if those women hadn't been persistent, if they had just said, we can't talk any sense into him, who knows what would have happened? I could have wrecked on the way to work.
Right.
So I tell women, be persistent. Nag if you have to, but keep it up until we can't say no. And we said, okay, I'm going to the doctor. But since that episode, you don't have to get on me about going to the doctor. Yeah.
You're reformed. You've been saved. Set free.
Yeah. That was the point that turned things around for me, because, maybe I'd go to the doctor, if I was sick, I would get, one thing I was doing, getting regular screenings, with PSA and stuff. But no, I'm like you, Terry. I go to the doctor at least twice a year. And, more if something is going on. I'm very comfortable going to the doctor. And now I get happy sometimes going to the doctor. I'm taking care of
stuff. I know that's right.
I just want to tell the women, be persistent.
Be persistent. I want to agree with you there, Rick. After being married to the same woman 46 years, she have a right to, and she got a great investment in me. So I don't mind her, getting on me, not keeping my appointment. So keep your appointment. I go to the doctor about twice a year, sometimes 3 times. But I would rather, if she can't get me to move, I have 3 sons about big as me, and they'll come in and make sure I get to my appointment. So ladies, stay on top of your men, and men, let's stay on top of each other. And because the Bible says iron sharpen iron. So let's make sure we strengthen our brothers to take care of their health better than what they're doing.
And that is crucial. We have to, and I'm processing, Dr. Bell, and I was going to call you at some point in time. I'm processing what I can do here in the PD area, and I want to talk to a couple of providers and say, listen, man, we need a Black male health center You know, and and let that center be a gathering spot.
Yes, I love that, Terry.
Not only just have conversations, play chess or checkers or whatever, but also have some healthcare initiatives taking place. I mean, we're working on that project as I speak, so that the brothers can have a place where they can come and feel comfortable about talking about issues that are affecting them. And we're going to have to do that. And we need to keep this conversation going, because the more we talk about it, the more it's going to push brothers to say, let me go get myself checked. My bathroom, my going to the bathroom is kind of unusual. What's up with that? And so, we just think we all macho that nothing should happen to us. But we are human too, but we have to keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. Now, because my uncle went to the hospital, I got my cousins, they're making appointments now. They're making appointments now to make sure that their stuff is cared for as well. And the thing about it, those of us who have insurance, I was having some problem with my knee. And I was in Hilton Head, my knee went out on me. And this guy said, Terry, I said, yeah, don't you have health insurance? He said, well, go fix it. Right. Because I was tampering this thing for years. He said, you have health insurance, go take care of that. Mm-hmm. So those of us who have health insurance, that's what we pay for. So we all go and get checked just to see if anything is in us that should not be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've got 4 minutes left, gentlemen. I don't want to keep you longer than you've been committed, but I definitely want to continue the conversation, because I do want to get Michelle's question in there. What can the church do? And I really wanted to ask you also, Terry, from a legislative standpoint, and maybe you could have chimed in, Dr. Bell, because I love your idea about a men's health care facility. And I was going to ask that, what can we do, as you all said, to keep the conversation going so that there can be an ongoing, consistent conversation, a space, a place, an initiative, so that brothers can feel comfortable talking. I mean, I know, Dr. Bell, you do your barbershop sessions, but there needs to be, some place, something where men can go, where they can have these open, honest discussions and get the help that they need. Because again, as the proverb says, we're dying from lack of knowledge.
Well, one of the things that I'd like to point out to you is that not only do we do barbershop talks, but of course, one of the main initiatives of Closing the Gap is that we are on radio and television every day here in the Low Country area. But, I have to remind people that in order to be on radio and television on a regular basis,
costs money.
You got it. And a lot of people think that me being on radio and television, I'm getting paid for doing that. No, it costs a tremendous amount of money. So it would be nice if we could encourage health insurance companies to invest in programs,
yes,
in the gap, to
preventative,
to educate more African Americans and the underserved. So spending a lot of time on preventive health care is very, very important. And then one final thing, we're going to start an initiative in which we are going to start educating young Black males in elementary school that good health is essential.
Right. You got to start them early.
You got to start them early so that they can find it very normal. They can find it abnormal if they don't go to the.
That's right.
We got to change the mindset.
Yeah.
But brother Terry Alexander, I'll be more than happy to talk to you about that, my brother.
Well, I'm gonna call Trey and get your information from Trey. If that's all right. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely.
We need to have that conversation quickly. And number two is that in terms of what the faith community can do, when I would get in the pulpit and tell them, you all can't be taking this blood pressure medicine and going in the back and eating fried chicken and all this. I said that just does not work. You're saying, you trust God, but you eating all this pork and then you're going and taking your blood pressure medicine pill. I said, you need to give up one of those. I said, you're gonna eat pork, don't bother the medicine.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they're gonna do because they're gonna offset. So I think from the pulpit perspective, particularly from the faith community perspective, we have to engage our church consistently in healthcare issues. Just as we engage them in the cross, Brother Arnold, we have to engage them in their healthcare on a consistent basis. When the pulpit, I wouldn't let them fry food in our church. I wouldn't let them cook with pork and stuff like that. And because of that, they became immune to that. And they know you can't find no food in here because we started talking about it in the pulpit on a consistent basis. We have health issues on a consistent basis talking about our health. And for years, they did not fry any food. I don't eat fried food.
Let me chime in on this, on what Terry said.
Yes,
our church, because of my diagnosis of diabetes, we became a healthy church. The whole church started eating and changed their lifestyle by eating healthy, by becoming more active and moving to to do that. So it is a possibility that the church can get involved, and they might find some resistance, but everybody wants to live better.
Yeah. All right. Arnold, Bishop Arnold Williams with Hope Ministries, Dr. Thaddeus Bell, Changing the Gap in Healthcare, and of course, Rick Henry with WIS-TV and State Representative Terry Alexander. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on, for having this open, honest conversation, and for all that each of you are doing in our communities. I'd love to have the conversation again, and whatever I can do personally and or professionally to help keep the conversation going and to really help spearhead and start the initiative, please let me know, because we have got to take care of each other. It's up to us who know to help those who don't. And as Dr. Bell and all of you have said, women have to help men as much as men love and have to help women. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. I appreciate you so much, Terry and Rick and Dr. Bishop Williams. Great show. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Listen, if you have a story that could help someone cope with COVID, please go to my Facebook page and inbox me at Tailor Made Productions. If you have a product or service that could help someone cope with COVID, please email copingwith@gmail.com. We would love to talk to you about getting you on the show, about being a proud sponsor of Coping with COVID. Now, tomorrow, November is Native American Awareness Month, and we're going to talk with advocate Marcy Hayden about those initiatives. Also, life coach Vernell Edwards is going to talk to us about 5 ways to start living a better life. All that and more coming up on Coping with COVID. As usual, I leave you with a reading from Jesus Calling, but we've got 2 pastors in the house, Terry and Bishop Williams, and of course, both of them are from Florence. I did not know you went to McClinigan. You know what my my Terry Alexander McClinigan story is.
Get along.
I heard about this.
He had a girl from Florence.
I heard that's what he said.
Yeah, from Wilson.
That's where I went. I went to Wilson.
Yeah, she was a tiger like you, Trey.
You act like that's something wrong. She's a tiger.
That's a great thing.
It is.
Terry, we can't be mad with Wilson because guess what? We had the same colors.
Purple and gold. Yeah.
Purple and gold.
We were in Yellow Jackets.
And they were the Tigers.
That's right. All right. So which one do you want to do a tag team prayer? You yield to the bishop. All right. Bishop Williams, can you close us out in prayer, please, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Lord Jesus, thank you for this opportunity and the privilege, the vision that you have given Trey to reach out into the community, to think and talk about men's health. I pray for each one of the panel, Dr. Bell. I pray for Rick Henry. I pray for Lorne. I pray for Terry. I pray, God, that you continue to bless each one of us and
thank you, God.
Let us use our spear opportunity to reach our community, to reach our world with the gospel and also with good health ideas. Thank you, Lord, for this privilege that we had together today.
Thank you, Jesus.
Excellent show, excellent opportunity. that men can talk about their health unashamedly, but openly and honestly. We praise you, we love you, and we give you all the glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Bishop Arnold Williams. Listen, thank you again so much for joining us on Coping with COVID. Until the next time, I wish you peace, abundant blessings. Please don't forget to be safe, stay careful, and wear your mask over your nose and under your chin. Have a great one.
Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.